Oh, wow, guys. So it looks like it looks like there's a committee, a reparations committee in San Francisco that is literally very seriously proposing that each resident in San Francisco gets $5 million. Well, that's a big deal. Reparations are owed to Black people. We know these things. And so I'm going to talk about the feasibility of this proposal going through, what this means, and just some perspectives on the reparations debate that you may want to keep in mind. So get comfortable, buckle up your seatbelt. We're going to get started on the Black Financial Channel right now. Welcome to the Black Financial Channel. That's theblackfinancialchannel.com. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. I am your friendly neighborhood finance professor. On the Black Financial Channel, I reach out to all intelligent Black people around the world who want to be smarter, so that we can actually build a better future for our children. We're not here to blend in with the culture. We're not here to follow along with what everybody else is doing. We're not here to become mainstream. We're trying to build a better culture. So if you have the courage to build a better world with me, then you are part of the B1 community. So I want to say what's going on, everybody. Shout out the city you're from. Let me know what city you're from. Hey, Harlem World, how you doing? Somebody's asking, did California have slaves? That's complicated. And let's see, I see Tyrone Smith, Zavon, and Shanita Pack. Good to see you. And everybody on Instagram, what's up from Instagram? My Instagram is the real Boyce Watkins, and Donald Muhammad is in the Philippines. Well, good to see you, my brother. All right, so here's what I want to ask you guys about. Give me a yes or no, yes or no. How many of you heard about the really interesting, really powerful proposal being made in San Francisco for there to be a bunch of reparations paid? How many of you heard about this? Give me a yes if you heard about that. Somebody says I have volume issues. Also, let me know if you can hear me okay. If I'm coming through loud and clear, let me know. If I got to speak up or whatever, just give me a yes to let me know, because I want to make sure my audio is good. Did anybody else hear about this proposal? Yeah. So I'm gonna tell you like this. I'm the first one to sit out and talk about the racism that's in the Democratic Party. I'm the first one to talk about liberal racism, which is an interesting form of paternalism that is very disrespectful to Black people. Kind of that nonsense about vote blue no matter who and all that other crap. But let me just tell you this: you can't argue with $5 million in racism. Yeah, I mean, sorry, not in reparations. I said in racism. We don't want $5 million in racism. You can't argue with a $5 million reparations payment. You just can't. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm sure there's fine print. I'm sure that it's not going to be 5 million. We know it's not going to be what they say it's going to be. But I think that that's a good number to start with. Now, I don't think they're going to really do it. They're not going to do it. That's the first thing. I'd be stunned if they did it. I'd be very surprised if they actually went through with what they're saying here, because the opposition would be great, and that's when you find out where people really stand. If you ask somebody to put a Black Lives Matter flag on the front of their company, they'll do it with no problem. If you ask them to celebrate, have a Black History Month chicken dinner once a year, they'll do that. But when you ask them to really write a check, when you ask them to really pay you the money back that they owe you, that's when they get to hemming and hawing. That's when they get to where, not all of us own slaves, but you took the money from the slave owners, didn't you? Didn't you? You took that money from the slave. So here's what I need you to understand about reparations. When you have these reparations conversations, one of the habits you got to get out of is trying to make everybody happy. If you want to have a real conversation about reparations, if you really want to have a negotiation to get what is yours, you got to stop giving a damn about whether or not people like you. Let me just say this. This is where you're gonna find out who your real friends are and who your not so real friends are. This is where the rubber meets the road. You're going to have people that have been allies to the Black community for a very long time who are going to say, "Oh, it's impossible. It's impractical. It's too much money. By God, it's crazy. It's going to disrupt the budget." But they didn't say all that when they were spending billions of dollars bailing out Silicon Valley Bank. They didn't say that when they were doing that. Did they say that? Did they start screaming about the budget when they were bailing out Silicon Valley Bank? Did they start screaming about how they can't afford it when they start bailing out Ukrainians? literally billions and billions of dollars going to people we don't even know, people that ain't got nothing invested in this country, didn't even build a damn country, doing stuff for them that they would never do for us. They would never write checks that big for us, but yet we writing checks that big for them, and y'all supposed to go right along with that. So what I'm saying is, are there budgetary challenges with paying back money that you stole? Yes, there are. Yes, there are. There's so many examples of people that steal money, and then when the police go back to get their money back, they say, I don't have the money. I already spent it. Well, they don't care. They're like, go get it. We're going to do a clawback. Do you know right now in Jamaica, not Jamaica, the Bahamas, they are going back, any business, any charitable organization that received money in the Bahamas from Sam Bankman-Fried. Sam Bankman-Fried ran FTX. FTX went bankrupt. Do you know that right now they're going to all the people that Sam gave money to, tracking all those people down and saying, you need to give your money back because that money was, those were ill-gotten gains. That means he basically took the money. He was giving you money that really wasn't his. Those were ill-gotten gains. Those must be recovered. So I'm just here to break it to you. I'm here to break the bad news to the people that, received that, $1 million inheritance from your grandparents, or maybe you own a piece of a $10 million building in downtown San Francisco, or maybe you own some farmland that's been in your family for the last 50 years. A lot of that wealth constitutes ill-gotten gains. You cannot legally transfer stolen goods. They stole that from us, and we have the evidence to prove it. We have the evidence. Now, they're trying to suppress the evidence. They're not going to teach you about the evidence in public school. I forgive you for you know not what you do. I forgive you for not understanding the history of this country, because the Black history programs in most public schools absolutely positively sucks. And they whitewash the history to the point where when somebody shows up and says, pay what you owe, you're like, what are you talking about? I don't owe you anything. Well, that's because they're not telling you what really happened. You're not aware of the crime. So you're as much of a victim as the rest of us, because they left you in the darkness of ignorance. And you're like the daughter of the mafia boss who went out and murdered a bunch of people and took their money and then gave the money to his daughter. And the daughter doesn't understand why people are so mad at her. The daughter doesn't understand why people keep trying to take her money. The daughter doesn't understand why she's in the middle of a mess. Well, your ancestors put you in the middle of this mess. Now, did California own slaves? Did they own slaves in California? Not that many. No, it wasn't. It wasn't like, it's not, California ain't Mississippi. California ain't Alabama. But do y'all really think Black people in California got a fair deal in that state? Give me a yes or no. Do you think Black people in California have been treated well in the last 200, 300, 400 years? Do you really think Black people in California? I mean, think about, process this. I was just out in LA. I stayed near LAX, which ain't too far from a place called South Central, where the what they call it, the cocaine import agency, the CIA, was dumping crack cocaine onto the Black community and devastated that community. Cost them trillions of dollars in potential and wealth, not to mention the loss of life. So it's not like California. Ain't nobody innocent in this game. Nobody's innocent in this game. And a lot of, and here's what's interesting about the reparations conversation that I want you to remember when you get into these debates. I want you to remember at least a couple of things. Number one, the reparations debate doesn't just stop with the government. Like, we think, oh, the government has to pay this money back. The government. No. Do you think corporations benefited from racism too? Do you think there are corporations that have $100 billion endowments and whatnot, universities and massive institutions that are worth tens of billions, if not hundreds of billions of dollars? You don't think they also benefited from slavery, Jim Crow, mass incarceration, etc.? Do you think that they might play a part in this? I think that, here's the thing: the racism, like the reparations payment, is something that is hard to pay if you forget that you can split the tab. You can split the bill. The Catholic Church probably owes $100 billion or so in reparations. In fact, y'all don't even know that the Catholic Church actually, I can't remember which pope it was. If you read Powernomics, Dr. Claude Anderson tells the story very well. It's either in Powernomics or his other book, Black Labor, White Wealth, which is a great, which is a great layout of why we're owed reparations, and specifically down to the penny how they took our money. If you haven't read Black Labor, White Wealth by Dr. Claude Anderson. You need to go to his website, powernomics.com. He's one of those voices that is a booming voice in the reparations conversation that is consistently ignored because he knows where the bodies are buried. But there are some people who understand this. And I want to say thank you to 3 specific Black men with big platforms who have partnered with me and reached out to amplify the voice of Dr. Anderson. The 3 Black men I want to give credit to are the rapper Ice Cube. I talked to Cube this weekend, and I respect this guy a lot. The second one is Charlemagne the God at the Breakfast Club. I haven't talked to Charlemagne in a while, but he's been a great supporter of Dr. Anderson, and Kanye West. Those 3 guys, I appreciate the fact that they were 3 of the men that put these topics and these ideas on the table. Also, Tiffany Haddish deserves some credit for that as well. She's a big supporter of Dr. Anderson. So a lot of Black folks, this is beautiful because I love when celebrities use their platform to make the people smarter and not make our people dumber. So long story short, Dr. Claude Anderson and powernomics.com is where you should go, in my opinion, if you want to make sure that the real history of our country gets out there, particularly when it comes to economics. Okay, so ultimately what's happening here is that you're going to have a disparity in terms of how good-minded white folks see the issue and how traumatized Black folks see the issue. This is where you're going to start seeing the dividing lines in the sand. This is where you're going to end up having to make a choice. I'm going to tell you the truth. So what's going to happen, and this has been going on for about 5, 6, 7, 8 years now, where there is a growing crop of grassroots activists on the internet with massive platforms who have been screaming the word reparations, who have been talking about tangibles, who are saying, let's get rid of the damn symbolism. If you want my vote, you better give me something other than symbolism. And then you've got those who are in this get along gang that are basically telling Black folks to vote blue no matter who, and don't ask for anything for your vote. So what's going to occur is that this reparations conversation, they've been trying to mute it for years. People like Barack Obama were specifically told not to say the word reparations. I'm not kidding. Julianne Malveaux, who is a PhD educated economist from MIT, a wonderful Black woman, love this lady to death. She came on this platform and told a story. You can probably Google it. If you Google my name and her name, she said that in around 2013 or so, maybe before that, she interviewed Barack Obama because she has connections within the bougie Black community or whatever. A lot of them don't mess with me, but I don't care. I'm not looking for friends. And she went and interviewed Barack Obama, and she said she asked him, "How do you feel about reparations?" And do you know what Julianne said? She said that once Obama heard that word, he said, the interview's over. Why am I doing this interview? He got outraged. He got up and walked out. That's what she said. That's her story. Those are her words, not mine. So again, this is not anti-Barack. If you love Barack, keep loving Barack. No, I'm not saying you shouldn't love him, but maybe you should feel sorry for him because I believe somebody told him that you cannot bring this issue up if you want to get elected. The man is too smart. He's too wise. He's too highly educated to not understand that we are owed trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars for what they stole from us, not even counting what they put us through. What they put us through is worth trillions of dollars. What they stole from us is worth trillions more. And a lot of you have this lineage in your own families. I found out through some research that I had a great grandfather who was lynched because a white man said something to his wife, and he confronted the white man, and they killed him for it. Right? I had stories in my family about a Black man who owned a lot of property where they killed him and took his land. These stories are everywhere. These stories are everywhere. So the question is, I want you to pay attention now. How can somebody claim to be your friend and they're hiding these very important truths from you? How can they claim? How are you going to tell me you my friend when you know I got done dirty? You know they took something from me. You know I'm owed this money, and you want to act like it's not real. You want to keep the money that was stolen from me, and you claim to be my friend. You ain't my friend. You are not my friend. See, it's easy for you to say that you are something than it is to actually be that thing. Money is where you find out who's real and who's not. So I think it's great. I love, again, I admit I'm not particularly diehard liberal or diehard conservative. I'm none of that. I'm just a black man. Things that make sense, I like them. Things that don't make sense, I'm not interested in it. But this is an idea that makes sense to me. I would. This is enough to get me to get up and vote for somebody. If they really convince me that they could truly push something like this through, I would vote for them in a second. So here's the thing. I don't think 5 million is going to go through. Obviously, I think that's a starting point for a negotiation. I like the fact that the number was so powerful. It wasn't something stupid and fluffy. It was like a hardcore cash payment to every San Francisco resident of $5 million. Now, if you don't live in San Francisco, I don't think you can just move there and go get the money. I don't think they're going to let you do that. But still, I think it's a great starting point. And this is probably one of the few things I've even heard California Governor Gavin Newsom talk about numbers in the range of 300 to 350 per person, which I think is a great starting point as well. And because I really think that if you are economically intelligent, you could really do a lot with three or $400,000. I mean, you could really change the trajectory of your whole family, but you have to sort of change your thinking to sort of prepare yourself for that sort of abundance or that sort of economic power. Okay, so let's talk about that in a minute. I'm actually going to read a little bit from Dr. Claude Anderson's book. He has a book called More Dirty Little Secrets, and all these books are on his website, powernomics.com. And by the way, my name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. My PhD is in finance, by the way, in case you don't know. And I have a new book out. It's a best-selling book called The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. Thank you all for making it the #1 bestseller on Amazon in the public finance category. So if you're interested, feel free to go to Amazon or go to boycewatkins.com and take a look. I actually have another book called Black American Money that's also on Amazon. So feel free to take a look at any of those, or you can go to my website, boycewatkins.com. So let me read this to you. This is just one. If you open up this book, here's the thing. Look, they're going to take Black history out of the school. They're not really going to teach adequate Black history in the schools. The Republicans don't want to do it at all. The Democrats are going to do it the wrong way. They're, in their world, it's all about civil rights marches and all this other stuff. But there's a whole lot more to Black history than marching with Dr. King. And so I think that for Black people, it's very important that we really get in the habit of teaching ourselves our own history. It's very important for us to get in the habit of educating our own children. Not to say that you have to take your kid out of public school, but just remember that there are 55 schools in the city of Chicago right now that do not have a single child that can read, write, or do math at grade level. So this means that they're spending hundreds of millions of dollars every year to miseducate, de-educate, and uneducate your children. They're literally, these schools, I bet you if you add up all their budgets, you'll get numbers well into the tens of millions, maybe over $100 million that they're investing in keeping these children stupid, keeping these children illiterate. Because I guarantee you, my friend Roosevelt Mitchell III, who was an extraordinary teacher, I think he's won like Teacher of the Year awards and things like that. He made a good point. He said, I bet you that if you go in any of these schools where they do not have a single child that can read, write, or do math at grade level, if you ask them to recite a Cardi B song, I bet you a lot of them can recite a Cardi B song. If you ask them to recite songs by their favorite rapper, they can recite that very quickly. But for some reason, somehow, some way, they're claiming that when they take your children, they're taking possession of your kids, your precious asset. They are destroying that asset, and they're claiming that your children are too stupid to learn how to read, too stupid to learn how to write, too stupid to learn how to do math. Well, I'm trying to figure out what the hell's going on. Well, I can tell you what's going on. I believe that we need to take over those schools. I believe that we should be the ones educating those kids. And it should be appalling to you that, and again, this is where things like reparations come into play. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of Black-owned homeschool networks, Black-owned schools that are doing a wonderful job educating Black children. There are so many great schools. I keep talking about Freedom Home Academy International in Chicago because I was so impressed with them, in the Muhammad University of Islam, but there's hundreds more. And these schools can't get any funding. They'll dump $100 million toward schools that are failing your kids, that are run by white folks, and won't give a nickel to the Black-owned school where the Black lady is literally working overtime, working for free, and educating those kids so well that they're going to Harvard. What is wrong with this picture? This doesn't make any damn sense, right? So I need y'all to understand, though, that they're never going to change their behavior if you never demand it. If you never stand up for yourself, then who's supposed to stand up for you? If you're never committed to fixing your problem, then who's supposed to fix it for you? If you don't care enough about your children, then who's supposed to care about your children for you? That's the thing. We have to understand that part of this conversation, when you start talking about the money, now you're getting into a grown-up discussion. This is not what you had before. Before you had racial paternalism. White folks, they're the grown-ups, you're the children. You sit back and they make all the important decisions. You just sit back and vote blue no matter who. They go off and they make all the policy decisions, and you just sit back and hope for the best. You know, they go and decide the fate of your community, the fate of your culture, and you just sit back and take it. Well, you can't do that if you're going to have a legitimate conversation about something as important as reparations. When you're talking about money, you must understand that money is where you're competing with the big boys and the big girls, and so you got to put on your big boy drawers and your big girl panties and really be ready to have a hard negotiation. That means that you got to go Joe Pesci on them. Anybody remember Joe Pesci in Goodfellas? Joe Pesci in Goodfellas was famous for one line. It was "F you, pay me." F you, pay me. Well, no, well, you know, we can't because the budget. F you, pay me. Well, you know, Black lives do matter. F you, pay me. Well, you know, I've been a friend to the African American. F you, pay me. I'm Joe Pesci with it. I'm 100% Joe Pesci with it. If I can't take your condolences or your support to the bank and cash it and then feed my family with it, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. And you're talking to I'm a businessman. There are so many conversations. People want to get on the phone with me to talk about this and talk about that. And I'm like, I got a business to run. I got people to feed. I got a family to take care of. If this conversation is not going to help me achieve those goals, then you're kind of wasting my time right now, because I value my time enough to not let you waste it. So don't let them waste your time. Don't let them waste your votes. Don't let them waste your anything. You have to be ready to have that grown-up conversation. You have to keep it simple. F you, pay me. I don't care about your excuses. You didn't make those excuses when you're out bailing out banks, when you're building football stadiums. You don't make those excuses when you're saving Ukrainians. We don't not one of y'all on this platform. I've been following intelligent Black people for a long time. Y'all follow me, I follow you, and I watch your behavior and I watch your conversations. Not one time did I see any intelligent Black people stepping out talking about we need to go get some $100 billion or whatever so we can go save some Ukrainians. Not one time did the topic of Ukrainians ever come up in our community, yet your taxpayer dollars are going to help Ukrainians. This is not against the Ukrainians. They can do that. I'm not going to stop them from doing that. But when we show up and say, okay, it's time for us to do this for our people, for Black people, then you better not give me no excuse. Because I'm literally going to go back and I'm going to look at every line item in your budget, every time you took a political risk, every time you paid money for something. And I'm going to say, but wait a minute, why are all these other people getting money and they didn't even vote for you? They're not voting blue no matter who. Not one Ukrainian voted for Biden in the last election, yet the Ukrainians are getting more than the Black community. To hell with that. You need to get away. You get out of that nonsense. So you know, this is interesting. So if you look at Dr. Claude Anderson's book, More Dirty Little Secrets. He's got the copies of these books at powernomics.com. I encourage you to go there. You got to teach your kids their history. You cannot sit around waiting for the public schools to do it. They're not going to do it. And if they do it, they're going to do it wrong. You have to be the leader of your household. You are the primary educator and influencer of your children. He talks about one interesting quote where he says, in the 1960s, President Richard Nixon gave backhanded support to affirmative action policies. And he said, with Blacks, you can usually settle for a dumb one because there are not enough smart ones to go around. You know, this is the president of the United States. He literally said that you got to hire dumb Black people because there aren't any smart Black people, or aren't that many smart Black people to go around. You know, this is the kind of stuff Black people have been dealing with. This is the kind of stuff you've been dealing with. You've been dealing with people at the top of your government, including even Joe Biden. If you go back and look at some of his quotes about Black people were just terrible. You know, you've dealt with this for a very long time. And as a result of this, laws and policies were always created in a way that that locked you up, it sort of turned your any opportunity you had to help yourself was converted into a scenario where you were forced to support somebody else and help somebody else. It was a scenario where there were so many examples where whites were able to show up and collect billions of dollars in free land and resources, and you were locked out of that. And all this is documented. If they just had one person, if you go back and look at the congressional testimony of Dr. Claude Anderson, that would tell you everything you need to know about just how atrociously deep this reparations conversation goes. But because it's such a deep conversation, you're going to get a lot of opposition. One of the quickest things people are going to say is, well, I never owned any slaves. Why should I pay? And the simple answer to that question is that if somebody goes, if my friend goes and robs a bank and then he gives me the money that he received from robbing the bank, I still have to give the money back. I can't say, well, I get to keep the money because I did not rob the bank. I didn't rob the bank, so why are you blaming it on me? Well, no, you didn't rob the bank, but you received the money. So if I go through downtown San Francisco, I want you to process this. If I go through downtown San Francisco and I see several office buildings, skyscrapers that are each worth $100 million or more, whatever they cost, and not one single one of those skyscrapers is owned by a black person, not one single one of those buildings, none of that expensive, overpriced downtown land is owned by black people. Or I go over to Silicon Valley Bank and I look at what percentage of the assets in Silicon Valley Bank that received this massive government bailout were owned by African Americans. The answer is incredibly small. And the reason that you believe that the number is small is because you were convinced that black people just weren't smart enough. You were convinced that black people, we just wasn't on top of it, that black people never liked money. We just didn't care nothing about no money. No, your ancestors cared about money. Your ancestors cared about wealth. Your ancestors put in the work, but everything that they built was taken from them. It was stolen from them. That is your birthright. That is your inheritance. You were supposed to be born with that. Having privilege and wealth and inheritances is not something that's just for white people. It's not something that's just for white people. You just were trained to believe this. So you accept your poverty as if that's just the way it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be like that. It's not. So I would love, I give them credit. In San Francisco, I like this proposal. I obviously there's going to be opposition. I think that they, there's going to be a fight. I think that they might be the leaders in this. I'm hopeful that they can inspire movements all across the country. I think one simple way to make them move a lot quicker is to not accept excuses when it's time to vote. Really, I don't care. I don't care if you tell me, see what they do, the way they get you out of your position is they do the same thing that they do, that an abusive husband might do this to his wife if she's tired of the abuse. So the wife says, I'm tired of you punching me in the face every time I walk in the door. I'm tired of you treating me like crap. I'm out of here. And then the husband will say, yeah, when we need you here, how are you going to abandon the family? Well, you should have thought about that before you punched me in the face. Well, the baby was crying today and the baby's sick. You going to abandon your child? And so next thing you know, she gets sad, she gets scared because the baby's sick, so she stays in the abusive marriage. So every time it's time for you to vote, what they do is they scare you into voting blue no matter who. So you'll say, hey, we want reparations. You better give us reparations or you won't get our vote. But then they'll say, oh my God, the Republicans, they're going to come kill everybody. They're going to reinstitute slavery. They just passed a bill down in Alabama that says that slavery is going to be instituted again. And if Trump gets in the office, it's going to be terrible. Black people are going to die. They're going to drop a nuclear warhead on black neighborhoods and everybody's going to get killed. They scare you. And then next thing you know, you have certain black people that are paid big money to go on national TV and scare other black people to say things like, look, put all the reparations to the side. You got to put this to the side because we got to get Trump out of office. We got to get this. We got to keep the Republican out because if he gets in office, it's going to be over. I've seen that happen 50,000 times. It's an easy game. They play it every time. It comes right after they put out the hip hop song like no voting, no vucking. After they do that, they then come along and they use fear. Fear is the number one motivator that they use to get black people to do what they tell them to do. Because when you are scared, you just follow orders because you don't know what's going to happen, right? So ultimately, what I would say is I wouldn't let them scare you. They don't scare me. I don't care. I truly do not care. Yeah, I don't care. You could tell me that the world's going to come to an end, the whole planet's going to blow up. And I'm like, well, if you don't want the planet to blow up, then you better pay my reparations so you can get my vote. My vote is always available. It's always available, but you got to earn it. It's always available. It's right here. I'm like, here, I'm ready. I want to vote for you. I want to show up at the polls. I want to support you, but I need you to do what you got to do. I'm putting the ball in your court. I need you to step up and do what you got to do to earn my vote because I'm not your political hoe. I'm not cheap. I don't come cheap. So ultimately, that's what we have to do. Until we learn how to do that, then it's going to be very hard to do these negotiations because when you're talking about trillions of dollars, those are big boy, grown up, big girl conversations. Those are not conversations to be had by people with an oppressed mindset. Okay, so do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. I like to shout out Dr. Claude Anderson periodically. I talked to him the other day. He sends his very, very best. And I hope you all will consider supporting him at powernomics.com. He's been doing the original work on this reparation stuff. Other people have done it as well, but Dr. Anderson is just the GOAT at all this. And I hope that as we have these reparations conversations, I hope that you will also support and go to his platform and maybe buy some extra books and give them out to people in your neighborhood, things like that. And also, financial literacy matters for stuff like this. So we actually have these financial flashcards for children that teach kids about economic concepts at an early age. We have some on real estate, some on basic finance, some on entrepreneurship, etc. So if you're interested in taking a look, just go to financialflashcards.com. That's financialflashcards.com. Okay, so here's what and there's the workbooks website, financialworkbooks.com. I'll put that on the screen. So let me read some of this to you about the San Francisco reparations thing. It's really interesting. They said that a controversial draft reparations proposal that includes a $5 million lump sum payment for each eligible Black person could make San Francisco the first major U.S. city to fund reparations. Though it faces steep financial headwinds and blistering criticism, they said from conservatives, but I guarantee you it won't just be from conservatives, it'll be from some liberals too, because you're talking about money. This is a different conversation. Tuesday's meeting of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors will include a presentation by San Francisco's African American Reparations Advisory Committee, which released its draft report in December. The $5 million per person payment is among more than 100 recommendations, ranging from offering grants to buy and maintain homes to exempting Black businesses from paying taxes. I like all those. I like all of that. Supervisors can vote to adopt all, none, or some of the recommendations and can change them. Several board members have expressed concerns over the potential hit the lump sum payment and other options would have on the city budget, already facing a shortfall. An estimated 50,000 Black people live in San Francisco, but it's not clear how many of them will be eligible for financial reparations. The recommendations lay out a number of possible criteria, such as living in San Francisco during a certain period of time and descending from someone incarcerated from the police war on drugs. Whoever's doing this, I just want to applaud them because I love the fact that they are talking about the war on drugs. I don't really know if we really understand how much you lost, how many trillions and trillions and trillions of wealth that you lost by the fact that that the war on drugs just literally was like a tornado that obliterated the Black community. I like the show Snowfall because Snowfall kind of does a theatrical representation and a documentation of what happened to LA as a result of the advent of crack cocaine, how terrible it was, because now you have all these people that would have been very productive members of society who would have gone on, some of whom would have gone on and made millions of dollars for their families. Some of them would have become doctors and lawyers. Some of them would become husbands and fathers. And instead, a lot of them became drug addicts, a crack addict. It's real hard to do much of anything with a crack addict. A lot of them were incarcerated. Some of them have been locked up for 30 years because Biden and Clinton came along with the 3 strikes laws and all that. So a lot of them are still locked up right now. I wish that we would understand the importance of going and getting those people out of jail instead of leaving them there. You also had people getting killed over the drugs. A dead person can't go on and live out their dream. They can't go out and do things for the world or for their family. They can't be there for their daughter. They can't be there for their mother, right? And then on top of that, so you have those 3 areas, right? Drug addicts, those who go to prison, and those who get killed. And then you have the rest of us who survive this. So then we have to move on through life as broken, destroyed, traumatized people who have trouble building much of anything because you're so messed up in the head from what you went through, right? I don't know what's worse, to get killed, to be shot in the head, or to have to sit there and watch somebody you love get shot in the head and then have to go through life and pretend like you're normal. And then people look at you like, well, what's wrong with you? And it's crazy because so many of you, give me a yes in the chat if you've been affected by drugs at some point. Either you were on drugs, give me a yes. If you went to jail over drugs, give me a yes. If somebody you love got killed over drugs, went to jail over drugs, got addicted to drugs, you had a parent on drugs. I mean, my father was not in my life because he was in prison for drugs most of his life. My best friend, Greg Wilkins, in Louisville, Kentucky, just a few blocks from where Breonna Taylor lives, my friend Greg Wilkins got shot in the head by a drug dealer when I was 25 years old. I was supposed to go to Greg's house that night. Now his daughter is a grown up traumatized woman who lost her daddy at the age of 3 years old, right? And she thinks about her daddy every day. I think about her daddy every day. You have my, I could keep going. I'm not even. I mean, I've got about 7 or 8 more stories like that I could tell you. I just don't want to tell them all day. So here's the point. This is heavy, man. This is real. Every time, I mean, if you really want to dig deep into that term, Black Lives Matter, that's a deep term if you really think about it the right way. If you think about it in the symbolic way, it means nothing. It becomes a stupid little slogan that they use in corporate commercials. But if you really think Black Lives Matter, what I want you to process is all of the potential that gets lost when a Black life is either destroyed or distracted, right? The distraction could come from drugs. So that father, instead of being there for his children and doing all the great things he would have done for the community, he's now either detached from his family, or he becomes a leech or a liability on the family. So you've taken, again, thinking about it from a financial standpoint, just think of just from that, not forget the emotional and all that other stuff, right? Just from a financial standpoint, imagine, changing something from an asset to a liability. That's like somebody going in your bank account and you have $50,000 saved up, right? Pay attention now. Give me a yes if you follow this. You have $50,000 in your bank account. That's your life savings. Imagine if somebody goes and takes the 50 grand out of your account, robs you blind, steals all your money in your account, and then they replace the $50,000 asset with a $200,000 liability. Now you got a $200,000 student loan. Instead of having 50 grand in the positive, you're 200,000 in the negative. That happened to millions and millions and millions and millions of our families, because it's hard to put a price on what happens when you lose a father's love, or when you lose a mother's love, or a parent's protection. So what I'm saying to you is that just the war on drugs alone, that alone is worth several $1 trillion in lost Black wealth and lost Black potential. When I was in South Central this past weekend, we did the Black Wealth Boot Camp out there. There was a young lady that I work with where we started talking about the LAPD and the police, and she just got furious. She's mild mannered. She's a very sweet lady, but she got furious. She said, "To hell with those cops. F those damn cops." Blah, 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 blah. And she talked about growing up in South Central in the crack era and how the police would come in like these crazy soldiers and just beat the hell out of people and treat people. Everybody was treated like a criminal. She said one day a crackhead came up and punched me in the face and robbed me. And then the police put me in the back of the squad car like I was a criminal, like I was a hooker. And she said I was a college student. These stories are real. This happens to so many of our people. So what I'm saying to you, here's the thing. The world is not going to identify with your pain unless you identify with your pain. The world is not going to respect what you went through unless you respect what you went through. And then you got to make them respect what you went through. If you want to take a note from the Jewish community. They ain't never going to let you forget about the damn Holocaust. They're going to make you watch a movie about it. If you say something about them, they're going to make you go do an apology tour. They're going to cancel you. They're going to do everything in their power to make sure you never forget their pain. So Black people, because we believe that our pain does not matter, because we've not yet been convinced that Black lives matter, we will allow our pain to go ignored so we can make sure that we're taking care of massa and making sure massa stays out of pain. I know Black people who will identify more with the pain that a Ukrainian goes through by being attacked by the Russians than they could ever have for what the Black community has gone through. So really, this is so deep. I really hope that this goes through. I wonder if the payment is going to be in cash or something else. I think that if you talk about the war on drugs, you talk about Jim Crow, there's so many directions you can go in terms of what's been done to Black people. I encourage you to study these things. Dr. Claude Anderson's books, Black Labor, White Wealth in particular, are the best books to study specifically and precisely what was taken from Black people. Just understand, this is our time. It's very important to do that, because in a few years, the kids are not going to know these things. They're going to do everything in their power to mute that part of Black history and change it into something where it's just going to look like white people have all the money because they're smarter than you. And we know that that's not true. We know that they're not smarter than us. We're not smarter than them. It depends on the person. So the other piece on this, I would say, is that I really think it's very important that as these conversations happen, that we sort of start making plans in terms of thinking about what makes sense to do with money when you have it. I think it's very important to make sure that the reparations payments don't become a stimulus check for Louis Vuitton, that does not become a paid bonus for the people that sell Hennessy and in the club and whatever else, right? People like Bernard Arnault have made over $100 billion selling crappy products to Black people. I really think that as Black folks, we have to really start being smarter in terms of how to preserve that wealth and turn it into the things that we want to actually have. I think also it's very important when you talk about pouring into our kids. You got to think a couple generations ahead. When I'm thinking generations ahead, I really want to see our children. I want to see us raise an army of children, maybe 1 million or so, or maybe a few 100,000 that really know how to think as like captains of industry, who know how to take $2 million and turn that into a business that's employing Black people, etc. Right now, unfortunately, we have a few people that still don't understand that. So you have a guy like that poor guy John Morant that plays for the Memphis Grizzlies. He has a $200 million contract, and he sort of just runs around and runs to stripper clubs and does all this crazy stuff. Well, the reality is that when you get opportunities to have money, you want to think in terms of not just ownership, but you also want to think in terms of systems. You want to think on a bigger scale in terms of job creation. So my question would be, if you want the Black community to become economically strong, who is thinking about creating jobs? Who's even thinking about things like structuring payroll and HR and all these other systems that are required for you to actually run a functioning company that can actually hire other people? That's a way to make your intelligence multiply. A lot of you are very smart. A lot of you, like I did, a lot of you went to college, you got degrees, you have a lot of skill. But the question is, did anybody ever sit you down and teach you how to really run an institution, how to develop an institution, how to even have the vision and the dream of the creation of an institution? Because let me just tell you this, if I name any major corporation in America, any university in America, any major media outlet in America, there was somebody in that outlet that was a visionary. There was somebody at Coca-Cola who said, you know what, we can sell Coke to people all around the world. There was somebody at McDonald's. There were the McDonald's brothers, and then Ray Kroc, who said, you know, we make a good cheeseburger, we can sell these cheeseburgers all around the globe. So who in your family, what child in your family is going to be the one who says, you know, yeah, I'm really smart and I could get a great job working for a white guy, but I'm so smart that I think I can actually create 10,000 jobs for other Black people? Because that is that ability to think big, that ability to think on scale, that ability to think in terms of sort of being a world changer is really important when you're talking about really developing a community and building a strong ecosystem. Okay, so ultimately, I think this reparations conversation is great. I've never been more excited about politics than now. Before, it was all a bunch of nonsense. Now they're talking dollars and cents. That's when I'm very, very happy to participate in those discussions. And so if anybody in San Francisco that's on one of these committees ever wants to call me and get my 2 cents on it, you are welcome to call me. I will give my consultation free of charge because I think you're on the right path. And I love the fact that you are pushing a hell of a conversation. I did not expect a $5 million conversation. I expected it to be 100,000, 300,000, half a million, maybe 5 million. Holy crap. That's beautiful because you are playing hardball with these suckers, and that's what you have to do. You have to come in with that attitude, and then what you do is you start the conversation at 5 million, and then if we get down to 3 million, then they're going to be happy because they're going to feel like they saved 2 million. But you know, you could have started thinking small. You could have started at 100,000 and worked your way up, but it's easy to start at 5 million and work your way down. That's how you do it when you know what you're worth. That's what Black Lives Matter really means. That's when you know that Black money matters. That's when you know that Black people matter, because you say Black people don't come cheap. You got 400 years of free labor from us. You abused us for 400 years. You stole from us for 400 years. You devastated our community for 400 years. You screwed up our damn children. Now it's time for you to pay. And if you cannot pay, if you do not align with this, then you are not my friend. Do not ask me for nothing. Do not show up and ask me for your vote. Do not show up and ask and sit and have barbecue chicken with my pastor, thinking I'm gonna vote for you just because you know how to do the hip hop dances or because you friends with Cardi B. No, I need you to write a damn check. I need you to do exactly what you do for your other benefactors. You have other benefactors out here where you write 100 million billion-dollar checks for them. I need you to write some billion-dollar checks for us, and not checks that are done in a paternalistic way. I don't need you to go fund more crappy schools in Chicago that are not going to educate Black kids but are only going to hire white teachers. No, that's not it. We don't need a parent. We want freedom and independence. That means you write the check, you give us the money, and you get the hell out of the way. That means that we take this money, we go, for example, somebody wrote a check to me for 50 million and said, Dr. Boyce, we want you to change the black community for 50 million. I say, great. You know what I do? I get on an email and I start hiring black teachers. I start hiring black people that can build construction sites. I start hiring black people that know how to build everything that we need. We don't need other people to validate us. We don't need other people to do it for us. We don't need other people to show us what to do. Like, we're too stupid to know how to manage our own community. That's the problem. That's the thing. In most political conversations, they'll say, well, black people need jobs. We need to offer them more jobs. No, we want businesses, and then we can create the damn jobs. Well, black people need better schools. Well, no, I don't want more schools that are run by Miss Sally from the suburbs, and then you're just ruining our kids. I want schools that are black-owned, that are run by black people, that are going to teach black children what they need to know. So write the check and get out of the way. That's how you show real respect. And before, up until this point, and even now, even beyond this point, there's no respect shown in this conversation. I sat there on the phone many, many hours with Ice Cube as he was confronting both the Biden administration and the Trump administration and saying, I'm not loyal to any group. I'm not loyal to any clique. I'm not loyal to any political party. I'm only loyal to black people, and I want to see who's going to make the best deal. And I sat there and watched them promise him that they were going to meet with him after the election. He knew instantly. He's not a stupid man. He knew that was a bunch of BS. He knew that you don't get what you want in a negotiation by giving them everything and then hoping that they decide that they want to do something nice for you. We both knew that was a sucker's deal. And I'll be damned if they didn't do exactly what they said. These people are liars. They are liars. They are lie. They will lie to you and not feel bad about it, and literally then still even have the audacity to come back and ask you for something after you know that they lied to you. So why would you trust a damn liar? The only way you deal with a liar is you look for proof of concept. You have to validate everything that they say. Like if your child is coming in line. My mama said, if one of the kids is lying, you need to tell them, well, since you are a liar, I'm going to double check every single thing you say. If you say you're going to the bathroom, I'm going to go in there and check to see if you went to the bathroom. You say you went to so-and-so's house after school, I'm going to call their house because I can't trust you because you have proven that you're a liar. Until you've earned my trust, I will not give you my trust. I will not give you something you haven't earned. So the Democratic Party, Republican Party too, with the Republicans aren't off the hook, they are liars. So I don't believe you're going to do anything after the election. After I give you my vote, I need you to do it before the fact. I don't want you making promises. I need to see results. I want to see results. And in fact, Stacey Abrams, I think Stacey Abrams was running for office. No disrespect to Stacey. I know you might like her, and I don't have nothing against her, but she was running for office. And I remember she started using Tariq Nasheedish kind of hashtags like the word tangibles. And she started talking about reparations and all this other stuff. And she was basically saying like, well, if you elect me, then these things are going to happen. And I sat there and I just said, I'm sorry, Stacey, but you had all those years. You're one of the most influential people in Georgia, if not one of the most influential people in the United States. Don't tell me about what you're going to do. The only way I'm going to believe what you say you're going to do is by you showing me what you've already done. Again, this is not anti-Stacey. I'm not telling you not to support her. You can support her if you want to. I'm not dogging the lady. But literally, the only way I can verify that you're going to do what you say you're going to do is if what you say you're going to do is consistent with what you already done. If you tell me you're going to get in shape and run in the Olympics next year, and all you've been doing is eating Cheetos and gain 300 pounds, what in the world makes me think that you're going to actually train yourself to become an Olympic athlete if there's nothing in your track record to show that you've consistently followed that trajectory up until this point? The proof is in the potato salad. Look for the proof. So I know people get mad at me. Every election, I have people that get mad. They say, Dr. Boyce is telling black people not to vote. I never told black people not to vote. I said, vote for yourselves. And if that is a threat, if that's a problem, anybody who thinks anybody who has a problem with that statement cannot consider themselves to be pro-black. The best thing I can say to you is do what's best for you. What in the hell is wrong with that? What is wrong with me saying black people should do what's best for them? Or well, you're distracted. You're hurting the process. You're under. Really? How about you kiss my entire black ass with that nonsense? It's crazy to me. They got us stuck on stupid. I'm not living that way. I'm not living. I know a lot of you aren't either. So I support you in that. Just stand on it. Stand on it. Stop worrying about what people think about you. Stop waiting for people to like you. Stop waiting for people to accept you. That's where you fail. I don't need them. I don't want them to like me. I don't care if they like me. All I need is, at the end of the day, I know you're going to respect me. I know that when I call you out, you're going to adjust your behavior. You might be mad that Boyce Watkins, that old son of a blah, 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 but I see you adjusting your behavior, which means mission accomplished. I don't need you to love me. I love myself. My mama loves me. My wife loves me. My kids love me. That's all I need. I don't need you to be my friend. To hell with that. You can't negotiate in the right way and still be trying to make friends at the same time. This is war. That's what it is. This is war. I'm done. Speaking of wife, I'm gonna go see my wife now. It was good talking to y'all. I hope this conversation was helpful. If you could you please hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. If you think anybody can benefit from this content, if you could share it, that would really help us out a lot. Also, my website is boycewatkins.com. I did a training on how to make money without working. You guys know my PhDs in finance. It was all about selling stock options, things like that. So if you want to go take a look at that, feel free to go to my website. In addition to that, you can also get a copy of my new book called The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. It is a #1 bestseller on Amazon right now, thanks to you. I've never had a book deal, never had a radio deal, never had a TV deal, don't have a network behind me, none of this stuff. It's just you. You are my network. You are the people who supported me, and I will never forget that. And if I see you in the airport, I'm going to give you a hug. So feel free to go check it out on Amazon or boycewatkins.com. And I have some other books as well if you ever want to check those out. One is called Black American Money. I did a whole series on that, but I wrote that about 12 years ago. So if I say something different or something weird or crazy, just know that my views have evolved over the years. I'm still trying to learn. We're all still growing. So even though maybe 12 years ago, I'd had my PhD for about 6 or 7 years at that point. So I knew a lot. But every day I'm learning more, and I'm learning from you. And I want to say I appreciate from the bottom of my heart, not only your support, but I also appreciate the chance to learn from you. So God bless you guys. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for listening. And I will check with you all again real soon. Take care now. Peace.